It's time to do the official kickoff. So thank you everybody for joining. It's really good to see such a wide range of people joining us from all over the world and from all sorts of different organizations. So it's really heartwarming to see that. There's another meeting going on at the same time, which is sending me messages. So I'm just going to turn my pinger off. So we're dealing with innovative approaches for changing systems through collaborative action. And that's people learning from each other within jurisdictions or from one jurisdiction to another. We have some experience of doing that here at UNDP. We'll talk a little bit about that and also be talking to you about what you think might help your work in learning across jurisdictions. This is part of the FACS community, the FACS learning community, and the Food Systems Land Use and Restoration Impact Programme, FOLER. So we have a number of sponsors for this. We're going to be using Mentimeter. So I'd like to ask you to make sure your mobile phone is ready for that. As you probably know, Mentimeter asks you to put a code into your mobile phone and vote on and make comments on various aspects of what we'll be talking about later. So do have your mobile phone to hand. As I was saying to the earlier joiners, we're all putting our organization name on the end of our personal name. And you do that by going to the top right-hand corner of the frame that shows your face. And clicking on that, and you'll see rename is the last option on the drop-down list, and just add your organization name onto the end of your personal name, and then we know who we're talking to. Next slide, please. So there we are. That's repeated again in English and in French, and in Spanish. And here's the what we're going to be talking about today. The introduction is what we're doing now. We'll be talking about the purpose of jurisdictional dialogues, the value that they add as compared to other forms of learning. And then the real meat of the discussion, the thing we're really proud to bring you today, is a panel discussion led by Pascal Faby, the head of the community, talking to the people who've actually taken part in some of our previous jurisdictional dialogues and to others who are thinking about it. What are the experiences? What are the challenges and opportunities? And those opportunities we'll be asking you for as well to make your contribution as we go through. And then we'll look at the lessons learned and close before the end of the hour. So next slide, please. So there are our objectives: to enrich our perspectives, build shared understanding, gather inputs, align efforts and identify solutions to address successfully this complex issue. How do we get a systems approach involved, but how do we also keep it grounded? How do we make sure the things we're coming up with are really meaningful for the people who are working at ground level in these jurisdictions? Next slide, please. So this is part of a series of 6 virtual events over a period of 3 months. So we've got capacity development sessions, as you can see listed there, and technical workshops as well. And if you're in this group now, we can ensure that we'll be inviting you to those as the 6 sessions progress over the series of the next 3 months. And finally, from me, I did say we had some examples. So just onto the next slide, please, Federica. So we've done one of these jurisdictional dialogues between Indonesia and Colombia. The intention was that practitioners from Indonesia and Colombia would physically get together and talk about things, but along came COVID. So we did it all virtually in the end, dealing with the fact there was a 12-hour time difference between those 2 countries. And we produced a video from that timeline that you can see there right at the end, the final premiere back in March 2021. And we'll be emailing that to you so that you can have a look through what the participants in that process thought about it, and giving you some highlights from the various workshops that we ran, the facilitators talking to us as well. So that's what you'll be receiving in email after this session, so you can have a look through that video, which lasts, I think, about 12 or 14 minutes. So it's a great pleasure now to hand over, I think I've done all the introductory tasks, to Pascal Faby, and he's going to introduce the purpose of what we're doing here today and what the jurisdictional dialogues look like in practice. Pascal, over to you.
Thank you very much, Simon. Good to see all of you. My name is Pascal Fabier. I'm leading the FACS community of practice at UNDP, and I've been involved with the jurisdictional dialogue for a few years. So great to have everybody here. We are lucky to have a panel of colleagues who've been involved in this jurisdictional dialogue in the past, and who are here to share with us their experience from Indonesia and Colombia. We have Juliana here. We have Jose. We have Charo. I'm not sure if she's joined us. Maybe not. And we have Marcelo. I will come to our panelists with a couple of questions to explore with them how they've experienced the jurisdictional dialogue that we conducted in West Kalimantan and Caqueta, Colombia. But before we do so, I would like to ask, I would like to come back to the purpose of a jurisdictional dialogue for 1 minute. And I will ask you, Federica, to share the slide back about the purpose which Simon spoke about. And the reason I want to do that is because one could ask, what's different about this type of dialogue from other multi-stakeholder platform and process? Well, what's different really is that it focuses on a specific issue that is of great importance at a particular jurisdictional level and not a major change process, something that is concrete, that needs to be achieved within a certain time frame. It's not about transforming system here. It's about cracking together a specific issue. And those jurisdictional dialogue are bringing stakeholders together to think systemically about the issue and working collaboratively around the issue. So what's specific is the systems approach to it, the collaboration approach to it, and the relative narrow focus. Such jurisdictional dialogue cannot be used to tackle nationwide extremely complex problem, or they would be too short. Okay, so that I think that's an important caveat to put to that. So enough for the purpose. I'm going now to invite our panelists and introduce themselves as I ask you a couple of questions. Thank you. So I will start with you, Juliana, with a specific question from your experience in West Kalimantan. Okay, that dates back a couple of years ago. If you can, before you answer the question, introduce yourself briefly. So from your experience, what were the benefits and the advantage of organizing an issue-specific virtual jurisdictional dialogue in West Kalimantan back a year or so, a couple of years ago? And what has happened after the dialogue was finished?
Okay, thank you, Pascal. So hello, everyone. I am Juliana Sulianti. I'm the technical advisor for GIZ, so based in Pontianak, West Kalimantan in Indonesia. So to answer what is Pascal questions, so what were the advantage of this dialogue back to 2020 or 2020? So the 6-week multi-stakeholder dialogue was designed based on the need of the key stakeholder, which is actually the government, because these processes of the dialogue led and endorsed by the our government partners. So this is and specifically proposed for this dialogue is actually to how to make the database available in West Kalimantan, especially for the estate crop sector, plantation sector, because the data itself is very much like a big problem here, not only in West Kalimantan, so I think in general in Indonesia. And to answer the second questions, what happened after the dialogue? So after the dialogue, because the GIZ, I work for the project, which is actually very much aligned with what we are doing, what we were doing through this dialogue. So we continue to facilitate, like kind of a multi-stakeholder dialogue, and because there is now a regulation in Indonesia related to the, especially for the ISPO, yeah, Indonesian sustainable palm oil certification. So this is something that become like mandatory for all the region, all the jurisdiction in Indonesia. So it become like easier actually for us to continue with this kind of processes, and also continue to working together with the multi-stakeholder partners.
So Yolanda, the dialogue kick off a process and of ongoing dialogue that continued after that.
Yes, we continue, but specifically for the palm oil commodity.
Yeah, and last question quickly, Yolanda, what do you think are the aspects that could limit the success of such jurisdictional dialogue, and what do we need to pay attention? What do we need not to forget when we organize such jurisdictional dialogue?
Yeah, especially with our project, we are actually under the government to government project. So it's very, very important actually to working together closely with the government, and endorsement from the government is very much like actually the key factor, yeah, for this. So I think the challenge, what need to be what is it, could be like very, like become like a limitation, the endorsement from the government, because it's very much you know, the bureaucracy, yeah, so it's not easy to work with the government. And also we have like so many rotation in the government office, so this is something that we have to always work on. Like sometimes we have to like start it over.
Yeah, I think that was our shared experience also in Caqueta. I mean, this needs to be deeply owned by the local authority and the local government. So thank you very much, Juliana. I'm going to move to our next panelist. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And it was a pleasure to actually work with you in UNDP and GIZ together. So now I'm turning to you, Jose, and Jose will speak in Spanish, so put your translation and interpretation. I cannot see the interpretation in my screen, Federica. Can you make sure it's there?
Just hover right down at the bottom end of your screen. It won't come on until your mouse is there, Pascal.
All right, cool.
Next door but one to the leave button, but don't press the leave button.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So, Jose, your experience is on the other side of the planet in Colombia and Caqueta. So what, my question to you is, how different was the process of this jurisdictional dialogue in Caqueta around the development of a forest extension system compared to what you've done before, what you've seen before in multi-stakeholder processes?
Buenos días, Pascal, o buenas tardes, o buenas noches a los demás invitados. Mi nombre es José Darío Garzón, yo soy profesional universitario de la Secretaría Ambiental y de Agricultura del Departamento del Caquetá, Colombia. El Departamento del Caquetá, para dar un contexto, es un departamento que cerca del 75% de su territorio son bosques, y específicamente selva amazónica. En este marco, pues, los encuentros llegaron a tiempo en el marco de unos procesos que estamos siguiendo en el departamento de Caquetá para ver cómo hacemos, identificamos formas de generar desarrollo en ese bosque o en esa selva amazónica que tiene población habitando allí. O sea, no solamente es el árbol, no es solamente los servicios ecosistémicos, sino es la población que vive en esos territorios, que genera problemáticas para el departamento de Caquetá en el marco de la deforestación y la pérdida de calidad del suelo y del agua. En ese marco, pues en los encuentros nos reencontramos nosotros aquí en el departamento y empezamos a repensar esos elementos claves que se establecían allí, específicamente para seguir construyendo el plan departamental de extensión de desarrollo forestal, que en ese marco la extensión forestal era algo como diluido está haciendo las políticas públicas nacionales. Estábamos pasando recientemente de hacer simplemente asistencia técnica al tema de extensionismo y las complejidades que maneja la extensión, que involucra la generación de capacidades para las poblaciones. Y muy a tiempo para nosotros esos trabajos y esos conocimientos que pues intercambiamos con los actores participantes en la reunión para empezar a aterrizar todos estos temas de extensionismo forestal, de cómo lo deberíamos aplicar, cuáles serían los costos, qué se debería trabajar allí, elementos como la cultura forestal que debería estar allí, que uno no, pues es algo tan grande que se tiene que empezar a generar las herramientas, uno para generar el tema de asistencia técnica y extensionismo para llevarles a ellos. Abrió muchas puertas estos diálogos para nosotros, para la continuación de la construcción y la terminación del plan de desarrollo forestal, y empezar a buscar aliados, y encontramos aliados para continuar el diálogo a través ya casi del orden nacional para abordar todos estos temas de desarrollo forestal y de planificación forestal en estas zonas de selva amazónica de Colombia, que aborda cerca del 45% del territorio. Pues yo creo que ahí estará mi respuesta a las dos preguntas que nos estaban haciendo. En el marco de la continuidad, continuamos nosotros el tema de construcción de esta estrategia, de una estrategia nacional, porque nos tocó abordar y ir con el apoyo de algunos aliados, ir a iniciar a revisar ese tema de extensionismo forestal para asegurarnos que el gobierno nacional pues genere las alternativas normativas para poderlo prestar en una forma más integral en los territorios, y empezar a repensar en dónde deberíamos empezar estos desarrollos, y dejar que el departamento del Caquetá pues pueda tener la oportunidad de generar los pilotos para la extensión forestal nacional. Gracias.
Thank you, Jose. It seems that the process of development of a forestry extension system was a complex endeavor, and the dialogue didn't shy away to tackle the complexity, but brought the stakeholder to work with that complexity. And I remember how participatory this dialogue was, with inviting voices that were not around the table usually. So that's much very interesting. We were expecting a colleague from who had facilitated actually the dialogue in Colombia, but she seems to be missing, caught into no internet zone. But so we will skip Chao, and we will move to the next panelist, Marcelo. And Sandra, if time allows, I will ask you the question that would I had planned to ask Charo, because you were heavily involved in the facilitation process. So be ready. Marcelo, you're from GIZ in Bonn, headquarter, all right? And you've been involved in this, following this, and from a distance, from a global headquarter. Why has GIZ been supporting this process in the first place, this issue-specific jurisdictional dialogue? You were in the designing this with UNDP together with us, so you've been involved from the word go. So what attracted you in that process?
Thank you very much, Pascal, and thank you, UNDP colleagues and the community of practice for inviting us here to share our experience. And my name is Marcelo. I work as an advisor at the GIZ here in Bonn, and I work for the initiative on sustainable agricultural supply chains. And yes, so concretely, to upfront already go into your question, Pascal, For us, from GIZ, I think we see a lot of value in systems approach and particularly if it's issue specific and bottom up also from jurisdiction to other levels of administration and involving different stakeholders. So we think in this case that the issue of deforestation and how to tackle it and address it is a complex issue, and one cannot solve it alone. There's no one single solution that fits all contexts, and as we know, so there is a need to work together to address the different drivers of deforestation jointly for the benefit of planet and people. And also just to say that, yeah, GIZ has long been working collaborative on this issue to address deforestation, also in the framework of deforestation-free supply chains, but also combining that approach with a landscape approach. So following a dual approach that is not only linear through a value chain or a supply chain, but also considers the context, the different pressures on land use, and how to navigate these different demands in a jurisdiction, and then how to combine that with enabling policies. And I can also go more into the policy aspect, but I will leave it at that just to respond to the first question.
Yes, thanks very much, Marcelo. As I said in my introduction, jurisdictional dialogue may seem common practices, you know, engaging multi-stakeholder, but this particular dialogue, we are around taking a systems approach to engage the multi-stakeholder. So as Simon has mentioned earlier, the dialogue series was made of both capacity development sessions as well as technical workshop to solve problems. So from your perspective, from a Bonn headquarter of GIZ, why do you consider it important to take a systems approach in multi-stakeholder process at local level? Why do you see the importance of this?
Yes, I think I indicated a little bit, and now going more into further elaborating on the systems approach. I think that talking about the issue of deforestation, I think there one really needs to have multiple stakeholders, also different sectors involved, and also not only one lead firm to deal with the problem of deforestation. I think it goes beyond that, and then really engaging all different actors from civil society to the private sector as well, but also governments, of course, is important to collectively deal with deforestation. So a systems approach for me is that an approach that is implemented through multi-stakeholders, like a multi-actor platform, as we call it, at GIZ, that engage local jurisdictions as well as vulnerable groups and other actors. An approach that considers also the policy environment, as I briefly mentioned before, at different levels. So also enabling policies that can be a lever for the objectives of jurisdictions as well. So addressing deforestation, there are different policies also in place in countries like Colombia and Indonesia, and also build on that and align it also to, for example, now we have the EU regulation on deforestation-free products, and there I just wanted to touch upon it and say that for that jurisdictional approach is key, because we see a role of avoiding, for example, leakage effects or in terms of the agricultural furtier that then can move towards other ecosystems or other forests and cause further deforestation or conversion of native vegetation, and also leakage effects in terms of international trade and how the commodities are then potentially exported elsewhere than the EU, for example. So to avoid that, jurisdictional approach and strong jurisdictions that work together to address deforestation is key to really have also high-risk deforestation areas still in place, and to transform those in a positive way and still be compliant with this new legislation from the EU that is upcoming and has already been agreed on deforestation-free products like soy, like oil palm, and so on. So that's, I think, a key to work together to address and be in dialogue with countries in the global south to really hear and move towards an inclusive implementation of this new EU regulation.
Yes, thank you, Marcelo. We definitely at UNDP look forward to continue working with GIZ on some of these. There are many places where our collaboration has already been filled in many ways, and we look forward to do more, including on the new regulation, EU regulation. Thanks a lot, Marcelo. In the meantime, Charo managed to reconnect to the internet. Charo, welcome. Thanks a lot. It's nice to have you there. Charo was a lead facilitator and designer of the Colombian Caqueta Jurisdictional Dialogue. So Charo, it's good to have you back here. And my question to you, Charo, with hindsight, is what different result do you think we can expect from this form of jurisdictional dialogue that focuses on a specific issue compared to what you usually see in conventional approach of multi-stakeholder engagement?
Hello, Pascal and everyone, and delighted to be here. And yes, I had a little bit of problems with connectivity, but I'm here. I'm speaking right now from Vietnam, so it's very late here. And I'm going to honor the language where I speak my mother tongue, so I'm going to speak in Spanish because I just see that there is interpretation.
Please
entonces, entonces, ante esa pregunta, yo creo que es fundamental entender qué es el beneficio de un proceso de diálogo como el que está invitando el UNDP. Y seguramente ya vieron un poco, si ya vieron el video o ya se explicó al principio, es que este proceso se basa en lo que es la teoría U. Y esta teoría U lo que nos invita fundamentalmente es entrar en un diálogo que sostenga, un diálogo que haga sostenible los procesos de transformación. Y yo les digo una cosa, cuando nosotros somos niños y estamos aprendiendo a hablar, nos felicitan por la primera palabra que dijo el niño, pero nunca nos felicitan qué bien escucha. Siempre decimos qué bien habla, pero no qué bien escucha. Les digo eso porque mucho de lo que es este proceso es escucharnos. Es cómo nos escuchamos para poder co-crear y poder pensar juntos en otras alternativas. Es lo que llamamos la inteligencia colectiva. Entonces, ante tu pregunta, Pascal, ¿cuál es algo distinto que yo veo en este proceso? Es esa capacidad de dialogar, pero escuchándonos en varios niveles. Primero, escuchándonos a nosotros mismos y poder entender que hay diferentes formas de ver el mundo, las diferentes perspectivas. Y luego es escuchar al otro y entender de que todos estamos conectados de alguna manera. Y cómo eso es tan importante cuando estamos buscando por soluciones ante temas complejos. Porque ese también es la otra invitación que creo que es una invitación muy poderosa. Esta metodología invita para cómo abordamos temas complejos de una manera colectiva y desde perspectivas diferentes. Entonces, eso es una de las cosas que yo veo como algo sumamente diferente de los procesos tradicionales.
Thanks, Carol, for eloquently putting your fingers on how different this is. Much appreciated. Did you? What would be your key recommendation to someone like you who would be facilitating a jurisdictional dialogue like the one we're talking about?
Qué buena pregunta. Más que para el facilitador, es un tema de estrategia. La facilitación es poner en acción una estrategia que se piensa. Desde mi punto de vista, es tomar la decisión que esto va a tomar más tiempo. Este toma más tiempo porque estamos hablando de procesos. Entonces es estratégico. Porque toma más tiempo. A ver, ¿cómo lo digo? I think I'm going to swap into English because I think this is something that I think more in English than in Spanish. It's like if you believe and if you're actually aiming for something that is more sustainable, you need to give time for the process to sustain that in the longer journey. And I'm saying that because with my facilitation hat, sometimes different organizations that I work with, they want quick results because it's true. It's like we need to do something quick. And I always say, because we're in a hurry, we actually need to take time at the beginning. And that time at the beginning is actually to give that a space for people to sit in dialogue and to start to listen to each other. That sounds so simple. I mean, probably in this space, people are like, yeah, but sure, we know how to talk. We know how to talk, but not necessarily to listen in a co-creative space. So for the facilitators that will like to go in this journey, the first thing is you need to step forward, not knowing what is going to be the end result. And I know that is hard. I know that is hard because you need to trust that is possible. We did it online. We did it virtually, which was even harder. And we did it in a very short period of time. It would have been lovely to have longer time, but we didn't have that. Even though it was for like 4 months that we were cultivating that. Is to trust. I think that trusting that the willingness, if you arrive into a space thinking that people are not going to do it, they are not going to do it. Believe me, you need to believe, and you need to believe that it's a possibility to have better decisions because we are actually having dialogue with the different stakeholders and with clarity on that is complex. I'm not going to say that is easy. No, it's not easy. It's complex. And because it's complex, we need more views on that. Another recommendation for the facilitators.
Your last one.
Pardon?
Your last one, Charles.
My last one, yes, sorry. My last one is to keep it simple. So that's it.
Thank you, Charo. Thanks a lot. It's true that when we designed this jurisdictional dialogue, we knew from the outset that we wouldn't crack the issue by the end of the 6 or 8 weeks. But I think our hope was to change perspective and to reach a tipping point where the ongoing dialogue would continue, the trust was built, the new understanding of the systems at play would be achieved with new stakeholders around the table. And I think we did that, we achieved that. And both processes continued in Caqueta and West Kalimantan. So that was great. We're coming to the end of that. Juliana, Jose, Charo, and Marcelo, thank you very much for coming back and digging out memory and experience from what happened in West Kalimantan in Caqueta before. That was very valuable. We are going to be moving into the next session, which requires colleagues who are here that you pull out your smartphone. Now you're finally allowed to look at your smartphone and connect to menti.com. Go to menti.com and type the code that is in the chat box 13403519. And when you are there with your smartphone, and I'm going there too, what you need to do is to click on there is a little heart. And by clicking on the heart, then you're telling us that you're there. And that's what I would like to ask you to do. So we'll give you a minute to do so. Our hearts are flowing into on the screen, and you can see on the screen what you should be seeing on your smartphone. We've got 19 hearts, 20. Yeah, we are halfway through. We've got 24 more hearts to get. And yeah, so we're going to start once we've reached 30. Wait for a bit more. Yeah, let's see. I need 8 more hearts. 1, 2. Yes, we're getting there. Okay, so this section really is to get your input on a couple of points. The first point is to just understand whether you've organized similar issue-specific virtual stakeholder dialogue in the jurisdiction you're working on. Virtual, jurisdictional, multi-stakeholder. We are getting the result. Yeah. Please vote. Yeah. How many answers should we get, Federica? 20? We are there.
I think all 25 are there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for so we have an interesting balance here of people who've done it and some people who are here because they haven't done it yet and they are interested to learn about. So thanks a lot, that helps us. Let's move to the next question. And the next question is, here you will see a list of typical or quite common challenges that usually we encounter in multi-stakeholder work. And we would like to ask you to tick the one that you have experienced yourself. Let's go ahead. You can tick more. oh gosh, stickers are coming together. Huh. We'll wait for a few more stickers. Okay, so basically the few more. It's quite spread. Basically, most of you are experiencing most of the problem and the challenges that we have listed, but there is a winner. The winner is to deal with power dynamics and conflicts in these processes, something that is usually not openly discussed about and dealt in the background. And this doesn't come as a surprise, because that's what stakeholder is all about, dynamics and power. But this power are usually not a problem if they are acknowledged and discussed, and they become a problem when they are acting in the back of the stakeholder processes. So if this is something that is of interest to those of you who are involved in stakeholder process, we invite you to engage with some of the content UNDP is producing on effective collaborative action, where we tackle issues of power dynamics and conflicts, and actually working with conflicts as opposed to avoiding the latent conflict. So this is something very interesting. And otherwise, this is all the challenge we've listed here are the type of challenge we hope a jurisdictional dialogue is openly engaging with, understanding the complexity of the issue, dealing with power, bringing the lost voice around the table, ensuring that a greater alignment between the stakeholders. So that's good. Thanks a lot for that. We are now going to come back to the plenary and ask the audience and all of you a final question that we would like to ask you to put the answer into the chat, not in Menti. And the last question really for me is to get a sense from the room here, if you think that the type of jurisdictional dialogue approach we've been talking about here around effective collaborative action grounded into a systems approach is something that could help you in your project with your stakeholders tackle a specific issue that you face at jurisdictional level. If you could put your answer in the chat, yes is a good answer, but if you can go beyond that and say what could be the issue that you think this type of dialogue could help you tackle. So please take a few minutes to put your answers in the chat, and that would be very useful material for us. Thank you for putting your answer, much appreciated. And as you put your answer, I think we may have 5 minutes that I didn't bank on to take some questions or comments from the audience. So feel free to raise your hand and with any question you may have or any comments that you want to make. We've got 5 minutes before we move into the closure and the last part of the workshop. Any questions? I cannot see any hand rising. John, I see John's hand rising. Hey, John. Nice to see you, Lou. Yeah, yes, please share your views or questions.
So thanks for the presentation, excellent. Thanks to everybody. My question was to UNDP or the whole panel participants. Do you guys have experience? I believe in, well, I know in Caquetá there's an ongoing jurisdictional initiative and certainly lots of activities ongoing in West Kalimantan. So my question is more, are there examples or instances where you have applied this approach of a discrete and time-bound jurisdictional dialogue in a place where there wasn't an ongoing jurisdictional initiative? And if so, did it naturally lend itself to an ongoing jurisdictional initiative? Did it kind of transform into that? Because I'm intrigued by this idea of taking a time-bound discrete approach to a systemic issue, given that systemic issues don't lend themselves to time-bound approaches. Did that, I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And whereas I think in West Kalimantan, I mean, it depends how you define a jurisdictional initiative, how structured it needs to be. But I think they were in both jurisdiction and regions, there were a lot of stakeholders involved in a lot of different work. And just to give you an idea, I remember that in Caquetá, the team of UNDP and GIZ had not met, had not worked together. So we started to work together around that. So they were initiatives, but I don't think they were structured initiatives. And my gut feeling, John, is that it could be a very good process to start master the different stakeholders around a specific issue in a particular jurisdiction where there is no such process, because it's not a too lengthy process, it's not a too costly process to organize. It doesn't have a full sexual transformation objective. It has an objective that is discrete, and it's around such objective that you can gather energies and stakeholders. So my answer to you is yes, it could definitely work. And in some ways, within the UNDP team, we see this jurisdictional dialogue as the embryonic first stage form of more complex multi-stakeholder processes. And that's how we like to see them. There's the commitment is lighter, the time commitment, and so on. So yes, John, I don't know if I answered your question, but
you did. Thank you for that. And I like that idea because we're seeing, and especially if you look at the province level, as you guys know, there's many district level initiatives that are trying to do these types of things, but we're getting layers of multi-stakeholder initiatives that are all trying to be fully inclusive, but that's hard. And so they aren't all. And in this case, it sounds like your jurisdictional dialogue was a good way of a discrete intervention to help link up some of those other efforts. And that strikes me as important and valuable as well. So thanks, team.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks. I don't see any other hands up. Did I miss someone? Because you're actually not all fitting on my screen. So if someone wants to say something in 1 or 2 minutes, please open your mic and just speak. Okay, I think we're good to go then. In our preparation for this workshop, I asked Simon to organize the closure of that workshop. I asked Simon a word of wisdom, and and then I can't wait, Simon. So back to you. Thank you, panelists. Thank you for your patience. Do not leave, because the last part is it's important too. You can find more information about this. So Simon, wrap us up. We are right on time.
Thank you, Pascal. Yeah, well, in a true spirit of collaboration and co-creation, I'm got a wise word of wisdom, not from me, but from somebody else because I was just thinking as Caro was speaking, she features in the video that we're going to send you afterwards, which is about the Caqueta and West Kalimantan jurisdictional dialogues. And in that video, which I did the editing for, I did a lot of looking through what the participants were saying about their experience. And one of the Indonesian participants, a lovely young man who I think worked in a warehouse in one of the supply chains. But anyway, he said, and I'm paraphrasing him now because I haven't actually got that section of the video on my screen, but he said, first of all, I wasn't sure why I was here, but then I saw through these dialogues, I could walk in someone else's shoes. And I thought, what a brilliant way of putting it. That wasn't he wasn't a systems leader or an academic of any kind. He was someone who'd come out of working in one of the parts of the value chain. And he was saying that I could walk in someone else's shoes. So that really was for me the wise words from one of our participants. Dialogue, as Caro was saying, opens our eyes and ears, but it also changes our mindset. If we're listening carefully, if we're talking to the right people in the right way, then the mindsets that we have, the thoughts that we have about how we operate will change. So dialogue does that. And I think if you add then a jurisdictional dialogue as a definition, that puts that firmly on an on-the-ground foundation. So it's not theoretical. You're actually talking to other people who are doing the sort of job you're doing in another part of your country, or maybe even if you can sort out the time zones in a completely different country, or as the way we did it in the example that we're going to give you in the video, we did it all virtually, as Caro was saying, using pre-recorded videos to get over the 12-hour time zone. So questions asked in one area would be asked in the other area, and they would see each other's answers on a video to save having to be up at 12 hours different. So I should bring it to a conclusion now. We must thank GIZ for their support of the original Indonesia and Colombia jurisdictional dialogue, and of course for talking to us in this event today. For the overall FACS learning community, thanks to SECO, Follower and the Global Environment Facility for their support of that. And all about building understanding of the multiple stakeholders involved from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. We often talk about multi-stakeholder operations. How often do we actually focus on the needs of the individual, or the individual stakeholders taken as a group, I guess is what we're getting in jurisdictional dialogues. So if you want to put that last slide up for us, we can just have a look at what you're going to get next, the final deal from your attendance for this hour. If you want to find out more, you can contact Sandra Andraka if you're interested in this approach. If you didn't quite manage to put your name forward in the chat, you can join. So there's Sandra's email there, sandraandraka@undp.org. That'll give you more information on the jurisdictional dialogues. As Pascal alluded to earlier on, Sandra was deeply involved in that original dialogue between Caqueta and West Kalimantan. So anything about that, you can ask her and she'll put you through to the right people. Do join the Food and Agricultural Commodity Systems community. It's a great way of learning, a great way of sharing. greencommodities.community is the website address to use there. You will be receiving by email that video that I was talking about. A post-session email will also have the recording of this session that we've just been through together. So that will be coming into your inboxes in due course. So do enjoy that and do join the Food and Agricultural Commodity Systems community. So I think at 2 minutes to the hour, it just leaves me to thank all the organizers for putting this event together, and of course all our panelists for joining us, whether they're having their connection difficulties in Vietnam or sitting in their office in Bonn. Great to see you all and great to hear all your wisdom. Thank you to all the participants for joining us and for staying with us through the hour. Thank you, and we'll look forward to the next stage in this discussion. Goodbye.
Thank you.